All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Robert, if you see any other people join, please have them added to the meeting. But just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Chelsea Blanks. I'm the Director of Operations at the Osteosarcoma Institute. We are so appreciative that you've taken the time to join our info session today. And we just hope that this is a helpful conversation. And we will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end, but if a relevant question comes to mind, feel free to add it to the chat or unmute yourself and ask it kind of live. There should be a raise hand option as well. So try to use those Zoom functionalities features so that we can see where the questions are. And then I just introduced myself. I'm the Director of Operations. I oversees the wrong word. I facilitate and administrate the grant cycle for the OSI, and I work very closely with the wonderful Dr. Chand Khanna and Dr. Lee Hellman. I'll let them introduce themselves and then we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Lee Hellman. I am the director of the Osteosarcoma Institute. And this is, as Chelsea said, this is really trying to be helpful if you have questions as you're contemplating or already starting a grant submission. So hopefully we can help you best we can.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Chand Khanna. I chair the Strategic Advisory Board for the Osteosarcoma Institute. Look forward to the discussions.
All right, well, the first few minutes are just going to kind of be an overview for those of you who may not know much about the Osteosarcoma Institute. So as I mentioned, we will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end, but we welcome you to add anything to the chat or raise your hand on the Zoom as well. The biggest piece of information for everyone is to read the entirety of the grant cycle and application instructions document that can be found on our website. You should have probably gotten it via email. It can be found on our website. If you need the link, we'll go ahead and put it in the chat as well. It's our website, the researcher tab, and then you can select grants and it takes you straight to the document along with Proposal Central. Just to reiterate, letters of intent must be submitted through Proposal Central by September 10th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Eastern. So just to remember, September 10th, noon Eastern. All the time zones on Proposal Central are Eastern. So we try to keep everything in the Eastern time zone so that it matches with what you're seeing on the portal. We're going to spend most of our time going through the document. And so let me share my screen really quickly so that you guys can see all the important information and we can go cover the things. This is essentially everything I just said. Table of contents. We're going to jump straight to page 3. This is an overview about the Osteosarcoma Institute. The mission of the Osteosarcoma Institute is to dramatically increase treatment options and survival rates in osteosarcoma patients through identifying and funding the most promising and breakthrough osteosarcoma clinical trials and science. The OSI was established in 2017. It was envisioned by the What Would Willie Want, or the Quad W Foundation, which convened a conference in 2015 to challenge experts in osteosarcoma research to expedite work that could improve outcomes. This meeting led to the formation of the Osteosarcoma Institute. We call it the OSI, as you probably figured out. OSI employs a multifaceted strategy in which grant funding plays an important role. 4 main grant programs include guide OSI's funding strategy and focus, clinical trials, correlative science, preclinical, translational, and high risk, high impact. OSI strives to provide both immediate hope to patients through clinical trials and long-term hope through earlier stage translation of scientific ideas that have the potential to result in new treatment. And today, OSI has committed $11.8 million towards a comprehensive portfolio of 29 funded studies, and we maintain a high level of involvement and accountability with our grantees through regular and rigorous progress reporting. So we're going to turn it over. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hellman, and we're going to discuss those 4 grant programs I just mentioned.
Okay, so I hope most of you, if not all of you, have read this. I know it's a long document. So, and we work pretty hard to try to make it as understandable as possible. So I'll just go through the 3 main types of grants we have, or the multiple types of grants we have. Clinical trials, obviously, we're looking to answer an important question. We have not moved the needle very much since I was a first-year fellow before some of you were born, probably. And we really need to think hard about how we're going to start doing things a little bit differently. So we're looking to answer important questions, to have very strong preclinical rationale. We're not going to fund someone to set up a new clinical trial consortium, so that needs to be set up. And you can do whatever. You can have a single institution, you can do it with a multiple institution, but that's not, we're not going to pay to get that set up. And obviously, we want a rigorous trial design. And that's, I should say, our budget, and we understand, $800,000, up to $800,000 over 3 years. That's not a lot of money. We understand that. And we hope that many of these, and we have seen many of these applications have funding from other sources as well. But we're happy to discuss any questions you have about that. We also have a correlative science grant portfolio, and that's really allowing people that aren't ready for a clinical trial but have interesting ideas about doing correlative science, maybe based on a previous or ongoing clinical trial, or maybe there's some interesting information that you believe you can generate that wasn't funded from the original clinical trial. But we're really looking to generate new biologic data that's associated with the clinical trial that this is a correlative study for. One thing that is really important, and people forget this, and it's been something that's driven me crazy for many years, is if you're going to do a correlative study, make sure you have the power analysis that will give you a result that means something. So if you have a correlative study and you end up doing 5 samples, I don't care how good it is, it's not going to help anybody. And it's all, so just make sure you have the right, you talk to the right people and make sure you have the right power analysis for these correlative studies. And, if you're going to do some new technology, we would like to make sure you've shown us that you have that technology up and running, as opposed to, because this is a budget, again, from $200,000 to $500,000 over 2 years. So if you spend, 1.5 years getting the technology, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for generation of data. And then, of course, we have a standard, what we call preclinical. I hate the word translational, but it's also called translational, which is generating new scientific information focused on osteosarcoma. We're looking for really novel ideas and testing, and so they should be innovative. And that's another grant that's $500,000, up to $500,000 over 2 years. And I should ask that all of these numbers that I've given you in terms of budget are inclusive of indirect costs, but those indirect costs, we don't fund more than 10%. So whatever we fund, if $500,000 is what you asked for, that would include 10% of indirect costs. Let's see, is there another one, or have I gone through? Oh, there's one more, which is, this is a relatively new one. I think we've had a couple years now of experience with this. This one was to try to take some chances, not have as much preclinical data, have a really interesting idea. We call it high risk, high impact. So something that if it's working, it could have a significant impact and move the field, and would require, of course, then much further study. But you have an idea that has interest and enough ways to either get a yes or no answer for that in really in a year. So it's really not looking for something with all this preclinical data. Obviously, you could have a little preliminary data, but it's a relatively smaller grant. It's 1 year. One of the things we do is we interact with these high risk, high impact grantees pretty regularly. Maybe at the time they get the grant, we may go through and have some ideas. All we're trying to do is make it work as good as well as it can. And then we would meet with you probably at 6 months to go through how things are going. So we're just trying to work with you on this since it's sort of a take a chance kind of grant. And we're willing to do that if it makes sense to all of us. So that is between 25,000 and 125,000 over 1 year with um, uh, the same issue in terms of indirect costs being covered at 10%, not more than 10%. So those are the major grants. I guess we can move on unless there's any dying questions. And of course, at the end, if there's some questions or if somebody has a question as we move on, we'll all be happy to try to answer those as clearly as we can.
There's a question in the chat, but I'm pretty sure Dr. Khanna's next section might explain or can address it. So Dr. Khanna will pass it over to you to go to page 4.
Okay, very good. So page 4 actually references a desire for us to see some specific grants that address specific therapeutic areas of interest that are priorities. But I should start by saying these interest in these therapeutic areas does not change our overriding interest to see grants in all of the areas that Lee covered, from foundational research to uncover dependency through to clinical trials. So that overriding interest in all areas has not changed, but we are interested in specific therapeutic areas, and one of them has been an interest for the OSI from the beginning, and that is around the hypothesis that the process of metastatic progression involves a distinct biology than the process of tumor growth, and therefore leads to new drugs and approaches to manage the greatest unmet need for these patients, which is the development of metastasis and metastatic progression. So that's an area that we'd like to see new biology and new targets and new therapies. The second area of interest for therapeutics is built around the recognition that this disease is characterized by a complex and chaotic genome that must have then mechanisms associated with the disease that over genome complexity and allow the cells to survive and divide. And that either will then involve a better understanding of how conventional DNA damage and repair therapeutics are matched with the specific context of the disease itself, or an extension to slightly less conventional perspectives on DNA damage and repair. And one includes transcriptional stress, and the other includes the hypothesis that I know all of you are aware of, that these cancer cells have a common need to maintain telomere length, not by telomerase overexpression, by a different pathway called ALT. And so we're interested in the ALT pathway and transcriptional stress as less conventional areas of DNA damage and repair perspectives. The multi-targeted kinase inhibitors have shown some sporadic activities in osteosarcoma, and we're interested in learning how these pleiotropic drugs are generating these exceptional responders and what subgroups of patients are showing a response, and then more broadly, why are the responses so transient, although exceptional. Last area is a very important area. We all believe immunotherapy has great promise in osteosarcoma, and we believe so much so that we are working on a meeting to derive a detailed strategy for our investments in immunotherapy. And because of the timing of that meeting falling against the timing of this round of grants, we're going to hold on reviewing cancer immunotherapy grants, and that does not include ADCs, for clarity. We're going to hold on reviewing those grants through this RFP mechanism for this year. But if you have a really bold and interesting new idea that you think deserves consideration this year, we'd like you to reach out to us, and we will evolve a mechanism to decide if the concept that you're proposing uh, should be considered before we have developed this strategy from this planned meeting. So I know that's going to be a topic of question and discussion because we've seen a lot of immunotherapy grants. To be clear, we're very interested in immunotherapy, but we're just so interested that we want to do this carefully and properly through a development of a strategy. And so it's just a pause for this year. And the pause is through the RFP process. We are happy to receive and think about ideas that may involve a different mechanism for us to lend support in some way. So that is something I can't say we know how we're going to do, but we're talking about it and we are expecting to receive those ideas and come up with a way to review them and give you timely responses on whether we can act before or after that strategy is developed by the OSI. So that's the idea of these new therapeutic areas being priorities. But as I said at the beginning, that doesn't change the breadth of what we're interested in from foundational research through clinical trials in all areas, unchanged from past years.
Dr. Khanna and Dr. Hellman, there have been some two detailed questions in the chat. If you guys could review those.
Okay, let me pull it up, chat.
Yep. Two questions related to this current OSI grant cycle for the preclinical translational mechanism. Would a study defining and therapeutically overcoming mechanisms of ADC resistance and osteosarcoma be considered responsive to this year's priorities, particularly when the payload induces DNA damage and the study directly evaluates DNA damage response mechanisms alongside target and trafficking related resistance?
That
And
sounds
then there's,
pretty much what Dr. Khanna just talked
okay.
about. So I don't see that as a problem at all. Not to mention the fact that he also mentioned ADCs were not including under immunotherapy. So
Does
I
that
don't
answer
see
your question? Oh, yes. Okay, you're
it's
nodding your head.
pretty
Thank you.
clear.
Okay, good.
I think Dr. Khanna tried to make that pretty clear, but the
Great.
answer is
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
thank
I'd
you.
say the answer is yes. I would just add a nuance, and we've had this discussion before. So, ADCs are an area of great interest and great activity for obvious reasons. We believe they'll come to osteosarcoma because of target overlap. And so the question strategically in this very interesting idea is before a ADC is demonstrated to be active in this disease, how do you, through grantsmanship, describe the importance of dealing with resistance mechanisms? And that's something that you'll have to deal with as a grantsmanship question, but the concept is very interesting.
Yeah.
There was a raised hand, but it went away.
And there's a
If you had,
second question.
there was
Yeah,
another question.
yeah,
Yes. Oh,
Just go
yeah.
ahead and go ahead.
yeah.
The second question is related to the mechanism. Like we don't know if we should detail only one single mechanism or go with the systematic approach, looking for all the upstream and downstream mechanisms to the ADC.
I think I think that's a really good question too, and I think that's your decision to figure out, what's the best way to approach it. And I think there are reasons to do either one, and I think I would leave that up to you.
Okay, both then are acceptable. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would just add, if I could, to that, just
please.
to be mindful of the correlative science component of our interest. And, if you can imagine understanding mechanisms, a use of that understanding would be to do correlative science in a clinical trial. And so to position the mechanistic understanding as part of developing, for example, pharmacodynamic markers within a clinical trial, that would be thematically, I think, aligned with what we're looking for in the next iteration of the study, even if the question that you're asking is preclinical.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I just want to make it very clear. Our reason to exist is to improve outcomes of patients, and that guides everything. So, we put all these guidelines, but if somebody walked in the door and had some, we're just here to push the field forward and with good science. because all of us believe that science is what we need, better science to move the field forward.
Okay.
But we're nothing would stop us if we think we have something that's going to help the outcome of patients that are suffering with this disease.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Someone keeps raising their hand. I think it's Boulangerie. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Nope. Okay.
Nope. Well, can I ask a question? Have you all read the document that was sent to you, read part of it, or haven't started it yet?
Oh yeah, we read it carefully.
And
And
I mean, did you find it relatively clear reading it?
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad
It's
to hear that.
yeah, it helps a lot.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see Dong's hand
Yep.
up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you guys. I typed my question in the chat also. So I have two questions. Number one, there's a faculty we're interested in to collaborate, but he's already on a OSI grant. Is it allowed to be still be our collaborator?
That's an interesting question. I don't know, John, if I think if you have a collaborator that you feel is critical for getting your work done, and that person already has money for another grant, I think we'd have to go through and see, is this, totally independent? And there's no, I think we just have to see what the situation is. I mean, if he's getting a grant for $500,000 and he's going to be a collaborator and get another $400,000, I don't think we'd go for that, because that would really be like getting two. So it just depends on what his or her role would be, and how much of the. But if you have a really good proposal and it requires this collaborator, I think we just have to, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it when you have your grant together, before you waste a lot of time, because we'd hate to tell you, yes, it's fine, and then we'd come and see what you did and say, this isn't kosher. So I think we'd be willing to discuss it in more detail offline when you really have something and you want to ask us a specific, the real important information, how much of this is he doing? Is he an 80% of the grant? Is he 5%? Is he just providing a particular technique? So I think it depends. You want to add anything,
No,
John?
I would agree with Lee, and I'd say that it's not disqualifying, and I think it would, as
Yeah,
Lee said, fall back on the importance of the collaborator and then the
yeah,
work that you're proposing.
yeah,
And this could be also resolved from our reviewing an LOI, and that could be the feedback you hear from an
yeah,
LOI. So
yeah,
both before you write an LOI
yeah,
and expect to get that feedback through the LOI process so you can decide on how to proceed. But we're happy to sort of
yeah,
weigh in more detail when we
yeah,
see more from you.
yeah.
Thank you. So the second question is sort of related, but it's actually more important for us. Are
Hmm.
there any shared resources, for example, a bank of cell line, PDX, and PDO model for osteosarcoma?
So I think in terms of shared and established, the answer is no, under our control. But we do have mechanisms to point you to collaborators that'll have shared those reagents in the past and may share them again. And so that would then fall back to you and your institution coming to agreement with those institutions. But you can contact us and we can point you in the direction of cell lines, tissues, and models to help you in the work.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. There's lots of them out there, and we know most of the people that have them. And in general, people are pretty collaborative in this field, but it just depends. And yes, we'd be happy to provide you with contacts and then leave it to you.
There's a question about eligibility, so I just want to draw everyone's attention to page 7 and 8 on the document. There's a lot of details about what type of institutions can apply for funding. And we clarify that grantee organizations do not need to be based in the US, but there are some stipulations for what that looks like and who can apply and all of those things. So I just want to ensure that everyone has reviewed that. This page also goes through the deadlines throughout the entire grant cycle process, what to expect and when to hear from us. I think that answers your question. We keep having some technical difficulties with someone, so I just want to make sure their question's answered. And then I also put in the chat that if there are additional questions or anything else, you can email us at submissions@osinst.org. The email's in the chat and on the document. We've only got a couple of minutes, so Dr. Khanna and Dr. Hellman, I want to just draw their attention to a couple of quick things. Again, just indirect costs. This is the question we get the most from investigators, is clarifying the indirect costs. So we hope this is clear and helps explain some of the details. And there's just a lot of information for you to really consider and review and read very carefully to ensure that your submission is following all the rules. This goes through some very broad grant agreement terms, just so you're aware as the contracting process through the cycle. Then pages 10 through 14 are the details for the LOI. So this is the clinical trials LOI information. It is required that you include all sections below in the specific order for your LOI to be considered, and pages must be numbered consecutively. We are incredibly detailed, and so we just want to ensure that you are following those instructions. We also get a lot of questions about this, biosketch, page limit, things of that nature. The LOI project description for a clinical trial is 10 pages. The other 3 programs for LOI is 5 pages. And that includes, no, that's an additional 5-page for this. But it does include references. That's another question we get asked all the time. The page limit does include references.
Well, just stop. Just look at it.
Yep.
Just stop. Leave it right there. Just because this is a perfect letter of intent. They tell you how many 10 pages. Oh, this is 5 pages.
5. Yep.
And you just look down 1 through 8. Every one of those things is a page, or that is included in your 5 pages. The other things do not get included. So it's the 8. So it's pretty straightforward. And just look at it. And if you're confused, just send an email. But we've worked over many years now to make it as clear as we possibly can. But somebody will find something that confuses them. Just send an email, and we're not trying to make it hard.
No, we want it to be clear. So if it's not,
just
we want to know.
Yeah.
I want to be mindful of time, but also know that there's some additional resources here. Any other questions? We've got a question still about eligibility. That's on page 7 of the document. That is on page 7.
What's your question? What's your question?
It's about Democratic Republic of Congo being eligible to apply for this expression of interest. It depends on if these stipulations are met on page 7. These stipulations on page 7 and 8.
Yeah. Have you read, whoever's asking that question, have you read that yet? Just make sure you read that. And if you still have questions, you can ask us, but it should be pretty clear.
Oh, and I see the question about the biosketch, and I don't know that off the top of my head. I might have to get back to you on that. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember which direction we went. So give me 1 minute and let me see if I can answer it for you. It's about the biosketch, old NIH or Science CV. I'm pretty sure we're doing old NIH. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Lorna Jackson, I'll get back to you. Will you send me your email? I think I know exactly what you're asking. I just want to make sure I answer it correctly and not speak incorrectly with the time restraint.
Yeah, that's important.
Uh-huh.
We should make that clear if it's not clear.
Yep, I see that.
Yeah.
We will be sending, okay, before we wrap up, I know it's 11 Central. We will be sending this video out. If you are not on our email list, I'm assuming you are because you got an invitation to this call. If you are not, please join our email list as a researcher or doctor, and you will get notified of this grant cycle and all the emails reminding you of things every year. It's a really wonderful resource for our applicants to see. And additionally, we are going to send the recording link to YouTube to that list. So if any of your colleagues or other people that you are working with need to see this, it will be shared on YouTube as well and made publicly available. And I might clarify that BioSketch piece in the email, Lorna Jackson. So I
Yeah,
will,
I thought
yeah.
NIH upgrade, changed their BioSketch to a new BioSketch. So I didn't
We
know.
did this whole thing, and I remember
Yeah,
the whole
I
conversation. I
know,
just
but
don't
I didn't
remember
even
what
know
we
there
did.
was an old NIH BioSketch because they updated theirs as well.
I'm so glad you asked that.
I will say like it depends of the host institution. Like for example, our institution doesn't allow us old version now anymore.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
good to
but that's
know.
the older version of the NIH,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I
yeah,
think most people don't allow, that's why I'm pretty sure it's the updated
I,
NIH BioSketch.
I think you're
yeah,
right, Dr. Hellman. I'm
But
pretty
I
sure you're
don't
right.
know, that's been around for a while, and almost everyone is saying now you have to use the updated. They won't take the old BioSketch.
yeah. Certified BioSketch. Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't know
Let me do
I don't
some
even know
digging
what the other one is, to be honest with you.
not certified. That's it. Like
Hey,
Oh,
Chelsea, I sent you
Yes,
something on Teams about the
oh,
BioSketch.
okay,
thank you.
okay. Yeah, I
Hold
mean,
on.
we all use the updated NIH BioSketch
yeah.
pretty much.
We are, okay, so now I'm remembering. Thank you, Robert. We are using the BioSketch template, but it's the updated NIH BioSketch
Yes,
template.
yes, that's what
Yes.
everyone uses.
Yes, but it's not the Science CV. I'm pretty sure that's like a portal review system. Yeah, we're not using that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Robert. Clarified that.
yeah.
I knew
I
we made a
didn't, I didn't
decision,
even
so
know there
glad you
was such
asked.
a thing. I never even heard of that. So, all right, I got to get off.
Yes, I think
Okay.
thank you very much for the time. Feel free to send any questions to submissions@osins.org. And additionally, this instruction document is going to be where most of your questions are answered. But if it's not, please reach out to us and we try to respond very quickly. And again, the deadline for LOI submissions on Proposal Central is September 10th at noon Eastern. Noon Eastern.
Mr.
Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
this
Thank you all
call.
for being interested in
Yes,
osteosarcoma. We really appreciate it, and good luck. And I hope
Thank,
you,
absolutely. Thank you
thank
for
you.
concentrating on the cure. Have a
yeah,
great day.
You
bye-bye.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.